Welcome to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. And now, your host and mine, Trevor Devall.
The roar of the crowd, the thunder of the applause. Let's face it, this is why we get into show business. Welcome back, my friends, my listeners, my children, to episode 25. 25, unbelievable, of Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. I am, as always, your intrepid host, Trevor Devall. Before we get on with the show, there's a couple things I want to talk about. It is currently December of 2009. And I mentioned before that this will be the last show for a little while because of various things. The Olympics are coming here to Vancouver, and that means I'm getting to hell out of Vancouver. So over the next 3 months, there's going to be no new Voiceprints, I'm afraid. But we will be back sometime in April, in the spring. I'm not sure who the guest is going to be yet, but I will sort of do the announcement on the website, and maybe a little special episode or something like that, while we're waiting. But in the meantime, after this episode drops, we're going to take a little bit of a break. I mean, come on, it's been 25 episodes. It's about time I had a little break. Anyway, without further ado, let us roll on with episode 25 of our 6-episode series of Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests. Today we have a man who is not only an extraordinarily talented actor and voice actor, but also is probably one of the most talked about, one of the most, I dare say, misquoted people in the city of Vancouver, because all of my guests, I'm pretty sure all of them, have at some point mentioned this guy in in past interviews. And so this episode is his chance to defend himself and to right the wrongs and to tell us the truth behind the legend, the truth behind the man. And so, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Mr. Garry Chalk.
Wow. Well, with an introduction like that, I don't know quite where to start. I'd be quite curious to hear what things I've misquoted.
Well, we'll go over all the things that
I have a long history with these guys.
Oh yes, huge long history. In fact, I'm looking, as I do with all of my guests, I have the IMDb lists here, and there's 269 entries in this thing.
Yes.
206, and that's not even all of it, because I know from personal experience, IMDb, they get a lot of things wrong. But
they get things wrong sometimes.
But this is the easily the thickest stack of credits I've ever had to wade through for an interview. Anyway, let us get right into that and take a look at your history. And now, Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests presents In Memoriam, a history of our guests' long and faithful service to the cause of voice acting. It's really not in memoriam like
I'm not dead. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm not dead yet. I mean, there's some people who may think that, but...
All right. We have, as I mentioned, a huge, massive amount here, and these are in sort of most recent to oldest credits here. But I've just sort of gone through and picked out a bunch that sort of leapt out at me for one reason or another. First one here, Scooby-Doo, The Mystery Begins. You were in Vice Principal Grimes, apparently. This was a movie, or was it a TV movie? It was a TV show, a movie? I don't even know.
It's on Cartoon Network.
Okay.
It's the prequel to the Scooby-Doo legacy. It's where they met and how they got together and how they became Mystery Inc. And I play Vice Principal Grimes, who is this hard-nosed, those darn kids, hate those darn kids, kind of vice principal who sees all the strange goings on in Coolsville High as just a lot of poppycock and hogwash. And it turns out that, despite everybody thinking that I am the villain, I'm actually not. I'm sort of a red herring, but I won't,
You don't want to give away the
I'm
ending.
giving away. No, but it's very, very fun. It was an opportunity for me to eat the scenery and get paid for it.
Well, that's the opportunities we're always looking for.
But it was quite a bit of fun.
Cool. And the next one here, that again, these are just the ones that leap out of me. Robots.
Robots?
This is now you play Captain Pounder on Robots.
Yeah.
Is Robots going into a second season, or have they done a second season?
We don't know. We've been told by YTV, the main distributor of Robots, that it's doing extremely well. It's a very popular cartoon, and to my mind, it is. It's a beautifully done, beautifully put together, and they're always threatening a second season. When it's coming, I don't know yet, but it would. If it does, it will be in this new year. They've made noises last year. Oh yeah, we're doing a second season. We're doing the second season.
Right.
So we'll see.
Whether that's just optimism or not, who can say at this point? Now, you do a tremendous amount of on-camera stuff as well here, as well as just animation. For example, Supernatural.
Yeah.
Supernatural, very popular series, shot
Yes.
here in Vancouver. You played someone named Sheriff Dietrich, apparently recently. That would be last year, I guess.
Yeah, it was last September, and it was their black and white Halloween episode. And it had the Wolfman and Dracula and the Mummy and
All the classics.
all the classic horror guys in it. And it was actually really, really fun because it was kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. And I play this sheriff who is quite curious to see what in heaven's name where are these characters? They only exist in movies. And these characters are showing up in my town, and then the boys show up to investigate, and well, again, I won't ruin that ending, but it's in black and white, and it's quite fun. A lot of dun-dun-dun moments in it. So.
And what's the next one we have here? Flash Gordon. Is that a TV?
Flash Gordon was a TV series for Sci-Fi Network.
Right.
And again, I played what did I play on that? Oh, I played the police captain.
Yes.
And it was fun because we're dealing with, what the heck was it? There's something to do with Flash being involved with some kind of shapeshifter or some kind of weird thing. I can't remember. Because I never actually saw the episode. Because, unfortunately, I don't get Sci-Fi Network.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing with me. I see very few of the cartoons I do.
I know. Where are they?
Who could say? Tom and Jerry, A Nutcracker Tale. This one, King of the Cats, because we did this. We were in this together.
Very fun.
That was very fun.
We got to sing and
that was a
and
musical.
play.
I saw it last year. I was at home and turned on the TV at Christmas time, and there we were singing away.
Yeah.
It was pretty good.
Those were fun.
And it's nice to be a big item. Tom and Jerry. It's a big show. That's bragging rights. That kind of show.
It's lovely to be on an iconic show.
Yes, and you've had your share of iconic shows.
Iconic shows.
And we'll get to those. What else we got here? The Godfather video game.
Yes.
That was done here
With
as
Luca
well.
Brasi.
Yes. Godfather. Did you do the Scarface game too? I'm not sure.
No, I didn't do the
me neither. I
Scarface.
didn't do that one.
I thought I was, but then I wasn't.
No, weird.
I don't know why.
Weird.
It's weird.
Team Galaxy were on. That one jumps out at me because I was also occasionally on that show. Stargate SG-1.
Stargate SG-1.
Very, very popular show. Big show.
Recurring character Colonel Chekhov, who I was on there for several years. I don't know. I did a few episodes. I don't quite recall how many.
10 according to IMDb.
10. Is that what it was?
That's
10?
what it says here.
Yeah, and that was the most fun.
Yeah?
I had the most, because I could do whatever I want, and I could get angry, and it was fun.
You were passionate
I
Russian.
could beat up MacGyver. I love to yell at MacGyver. It's no too many people get to yell at MacGyver. It's lots of fun. And the terrific thing about it is I made it into the Stargate Hall of Fame.
Really?
Yes, in Texas, and I think it's in Dallas. They've got a thing in there in this museum or this Hall of Fame, and got my uniform and all my stuff from the show was there, and I'm going, cool.
Wow. So how did you find out about this?
I found out because I was at the Stargate, the GateCon, and the curator of the exhibit down in Dallas came up to me and, with great circumstance, he said, "I'd like to announce that you are officially now been entered into the Stargate Hall of Fame in Dallas, Texas. I think it's Dallas, Texas. And you're immortalized in the museum." And I went, "Great." Well, that's great. I can't wait to see it. But the thing is, it sort of bugged me because they've got my uniform and everything in there.
Yeah.
And I wanted that uniform because it's tailor-made for me.
Of course.
And, and any time I could be a Russian general, I would,
It comes in handy. Halloween and such.
Yeah.
Talk about iconic characters. Here it is. Here's the big one that, in the anime world at least, you're absolutely known for. I mean, you're known for a lot. But this is a huge, huge one. Transformers. Cybertron in this case. Optimus Prime.
I know.
That's a massive, massive character.
And you know what's really funny about Optimus Prime? When I first recorded Optimus Prime was in the first season of Beast Wars.
Yeah.
Beast Wars, not Beast Machines, Beast or Beasties as we call it in Canada because we can't say war on children's TV.
Beasties.
But Beasties. And I read for Optimus Prime and I was reading and I'm thinking, and they said, "Hey, you got Optimus Prime," and I went, "Oh, that's cool. That's great." I just
didn't mean anything to you.
Didn't mean a darn thing. I just went, "Oh, it's a great cartoon. It's a fun cartoon," and I just love the idea that it was like one of the first CGI cartoon series on TV, and I thought, "Wow, that's great. I'm part of that." And then about, I guess, a couple of years into the series, all of a sudden people start calling, "We need you to come to this convention. We need you to come to this convention." And I went, "Oh, great. Okay, I'll go to a convention. That'll be kind of fun." And I walk in the door, and it was like I was an alien who just landed on the planet. Everybody goes, "Homer! He's out!" And I don't know if you ever saw Galaxy Quest, but when the captain of the ship walks onto the convention floor and all the table full of girls goes, that happened. That happened in Disneyland in Orange County at where we had a Transformers convention. I walked in, and these 4 girls were sitting there, and they all went, and I went, "Oh, this is kind of weird." But I never realized how much of a deal it was to get that character. But now, you all over the world, I mean, you get, from Facebook and email and all this stuff from everywhere in the world. And even the funniest thing is that, customs agents and police officers, you talk to them and says, "Hey, you're Garry Chuck. So, yeah, you do cartoons?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "What cartoons you do?" And I said, "Well, I do Optimus Prime." And he goes, "No way. You do Optimus? Come on, do it." This is cops.
Yeah.
And I'm going,
there are perks to the job.
Transformers. Oh, yeah! I'm going, okay.
Don't worry, Mr. Chuck. You take the shipment of drugs through. We're not even going to check.
You just take them through. You go on and, hey, you, old lady, come here. You're slowing Optimus up. It's very funny.
A reaction that continues to this day, I have no doubt.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's a big, big character. What else we got here? You played Hercules on Clash of the Titans, which was a few years ago now.
Oh, yeah.
What else we got? The Dead Zone. The Dead Zone. You did a number of episodes according to this.
I played Sean Patrick Flannery, who was the bad guy in the Dead Zone, who Anthony Michael Hall was chasing all the time because he was this evil senator who was going to end the world. I played his father.
Ah.
And so I was his dad through all these episodes, and my ignominious end came when my own son strangled the life out of me in a karate jiu-jitsu stranglehold and killed me.
Oh.
But I came back in the next episode as you know, as a flashback. But
Right.
But it was quite fun. I have really enjoyed that show.
Cold Squad. This was a huge show in Canada. Anyway, I'm not sure how well it did internationally, but big show. They did how many seasons of Cold Squad? It was like
They
7 or something like
did
that.
eight seasons and 100 shows, I believe. It's very big in Canada, in a lot of other countries. I have such a laugh because I've seen it in Spanish in Mexico when I was in Mexico, and the guy who plays my voice in Spanish sounds like me.
Uh-oh.
And I went, my God, I speak pretty good Spanish. Because he has the same tonal thing as me. And the girl, I was staying at the Club Med, and the girl who does the activities stuff, she comes up to me and says, you speak Spanish just like a Mexican. And I says, no, it's not me. It's a guy. Well, he sounded just like you.
The voice match guy.
The voice match guy was incredible. But Cold Squad's popular, and it was in, I think, 50 countries, and it's still big in the States. And the funniest thing is I've probably been stopped maybe once or twice for Cold Squad. You know, people saying hello about Cold Squad here in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. I was down in Mobile, Alabama last year, and I walked into the gas station to get some gas for the car, and the guy goes, "Hey, it's you, Mr. Pula, what's you're on that show." And I said, "Yes." And he says, "I knew that. What the heck you doing down there in Mobile?" And I said, "I'm shooting a movie." And he goes, "Oh, yeah? Well, that is so good. Hey, look at that! That guy from Cold Squad here."
Wow,
You know,
Cold Squad in Alabama. It doesn't seem like the
but
demographic.
it's very popular in the South.
Wow.
It's so funny because it's on, I think it's on ABC late night.
Wow.
Well, it's 11 o'clock or something.
I like them stories about them dead cases. Them ones that can't
them
figure out,
cold
man.
cases. That other girl up there, you know, that one with the blonde hair, that one that's here in
She
America.
done some smart stuff, man.
Oh, boy.
No offense to our Alabama listeners.
No offense.
What else we got here? Dragon Tales. Character named Mungus the Giant, if that...
Mungus the Giant. Love that. He's a giant who makes bumbleberry pies, boobleberry pies. So on the NPR, National Public, the National Public TV.
Yeah.
And it was a delightful character because this giant character sort of overshadowed everybody else, but he was so sweet. Mm-hmm. All he wanted to do was eat pies and make pie and have fun with the kids. And apparently, he won an award, a sort of a children's programming award for best new character or something.
Wow.
But that was for Dragon Tales, and that was quite fun. I quite like that.
Popular
character.
show.
Yeah.
Another one here, not quite as popular, but I certainly wish it had been more popular. Dragon Booster. Dragon
Booster.
Played Connor Payne. And this is actually the show where you and I really first worked together.
That's right.
That was pretty much
Yeah, because
the
I
first
never
show.
worked with you before.
No, that was first
I don't
time.
think so. Or once in a while. But
Yeah.
I don't know what happened with Dragon Booster. It was
We did like 40 episodes right
Yeah.
out of the gate, and I don't think it ever took off down in the States. I think that's what happened there.
I think
but,
that's the problem.
but I get a lot of fan mail from it still.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
No,
write
it
in.
still airs. I mean,
Yeah.
it still airs all over the place. But these days it's really hard to maintain because the media universe is so huge.
Yes.
I mean, I couldn't believe how huge it was when I went on YouTube one day, and I don't usually go on YouTube, and somebody told me, I can find some clips of your shows on YouTube. So I went on YouTube, and I thought, I'll just do that, just see what the hell.
Yeah.
Man, every single cartoon that I've ever done is on YouTube.
I know.
It blows your mind.
Yeah, you can find virtually anything out there. stuff that, I had forgotten even existed. But there it is. Somehow they've procured old tapes from the 70s and put stuff up on YouTube. It's
Well, I found one show that's not on there, and that was the very first cartoon I ever did.
Which was what?
Which was...
I'm sure it's on this list, but...
Hiawatha.
Hiawatha.
And it was for Kenner Classics, and I recorded it out at Atkinson Film Arts in Ottawa, it's where they recorded Fritz the Cat.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Heavy Metal and The Man Who Skied Down Everest and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a venerable old studio, but that was in the days where looping, you had a black line here and a black line here on one side of the screen, another one on the other side, and when they met...
That's when you
talked. And it was on film on a projector, so... It took absolutely forever to do looping because you had to rewind the film.
Right.
And then play it again, rewind the film.
Analog.
Oh, analog. Hi, analog. We love you. You've got such a warm, wonderful sound and a great look, but boy.
You're a bitch.
Labor of love, I tell you that.
What else we have here? Here's another. Talk about iconic show, which you've had the privilege of doing several different characters on, including the title character, but not in this particular version, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, and the most recent incarnation where you were Man-at-Arms.
Man-at-Arms, the new adventures of He-Man.
New adventures.
Yeah, that was another one where I read it, and I was working with Sue Blue, the director. It's the first time I'd worked with Sue Blue. And she said, make him younger, make him warmer, make him this. Oh, speed it up, slow it down. Speed it up. No, that's good. Okay, a little warmer, a little bigger. That's great. Okay, you're it. And I went, oh, that's terrific. And again, I had no idea what it was such an iconic character, because it seemed to me that a lot of these cartoons came out when I was grown up. Mm-hmm. So I missed a lot of them. Mm-hmm. But
whereas for somebody like in my generation, I remember He-Man was a very popular toy when I was a kid.
Toy,
that was a huge deal. Castle Grayskull and
Skeletor and the sword.
Yeah.
I have the power. It was really fun. I get a lot of sometimes embarrassing calls for that. By the power of Grayskull, I have the power. And when you're at somebody's house, it's okay. But when you're in the middle of a mall, or sitting in a restaurant,
you're Garry Jock. Can you say the word, please?
No, I'm not doing it.
Dance monkey.
Come on, boss monkey.
This is a big one that I get a lot of people asking about. Freddy versus Jason.
Oh,
big movie.
It's a big movie all over the world. Another one, I went in and I read, I met Ronnie Yu, the director, and I had worked with him before on Warriors of Virtue. And which was another big fantasy thing with fighting kangaroos and stuff. It was quite fun. Ronnie Yu, lovely man. He's so funny. He was a great guy. He called, okay, when you come down the stair, you are scared. But you are not scared. You are more concerned. Right? Okay, you do that. He was a Chinese director from China, or from Hong Kong, I believe. Used to be a martial arts director and a big film director. Very funny, very forthright guy. And I remember I played the sheriff on there, trying to figure out what was going on. As a matter of fact, I played the character who killed Freddy Krueger. Or burned him in the fire, which is why he got all this and the things.
So you're the reason.
I'm the reason. And, me and the townsfolk anyway. So I was part of that legend. But that was another one. I had this thing in the movie. If you watch the movie, for all you guys out there who watched the movie, Freddy vs. Jason, you'll notice that in every single scene I do, I will say this. We've got to contain the situation. This has got to be contained. If we don't contain this, something bad is going to happen. So I want you out there to contain everything. And I'm telling you, I said the word contain in every scene. So I went up to Ronnie and I said, Ronnie, I say the word contain. We've got to contain this in every scene. He said, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's like a joke. You know, it's your thing. Every time you come on, you say contain. And I said,
That's going to be very funny. Everybody
very
laugh.
funny. Very funny. No, you're going to like it. And I said, okay. So I said, we've got to keep this thing contained. So I put my heart and soul
Of
into
course.
it.
This is another iconic show, and this is, as far as I know, anyway, the first big CG cartoon, and that's Reboot.
Reboot.
And you played Slash.
One of my favorite cartoons.
How long was Reboot? Was that was multiple seasons, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was, I think it was 3-4 years of Reboot, and there's talk of remounting that as well.
Yes, that's all. I always sort of hear those murmurings.
I know. The murmurs, the movies.
Yeah.
Yes, there's going to be a movie. Yeah, there's going to be a movie. And if you write in and say, we want a movie, they will make a movie.
That's right. They always listen to the fans.
Yes,
That's
they
certainly
always
true.
listen to the fans. But that was the most fun, that show, because Scott McNeil, who played Hack, Scott and I would improvise all our dialogue.
Really?
Yeah. So we'd do the regular dialogue that was the story dialogue, and then we'd make up our own dialogue. And a lot of times they would use our dialogue. So you'll see some moments in there that, so how do they fit in the script? But they fit, but it's something that only an insider would know, right? But
That's cool.
quite fun.
Lots of stuff. Dark Angel was another show was done here. You run Dark Angel.
Yeah.
The Outer Limits, another popular show here. Here we go. Beast Machines. This is so there was Beast Wars and Beast Machines. Those were
Beast
two
Wars,
different.
They generate or evolved into Beast Machines.
I see. And you played Optimus Primal on this.
Primal,
Now, for a guy who does a show about cartoons and who works in cartoons, I know nothing about cartoons. So, what was the difference between Optimus Prime and Optimus Primal?
Well, the difference between Optimus Prime is Prime was a machine, a truck,
Yeah.
and Primal was a gorilla.
Oh, so it's a completely different character. It's not.
Yeah. Whereas Optimus Primal was very human, very warm. He was like, he was going, come on, you guys, we got to do this. Let's get out there and get it done. Prime was more, my bad, we have to get the spark. Go for it now. Come on, kids, Jetfire, get over here. That kind of
Right,
hardcore.
deeper, gruffer.
Fiercer. Fiercer, yes. More manly.
More manly indeed. God, just so many here. I
know.
So many. Ninja Turtles, the next mutation. What else we got here? More Reboot. Warriors of Virtue. Action Man.
That was a fun show.
Yeah.
It was
a lot of
live
people
action
talk
and
about that one.
animation combined.
Yeah. The Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. This is another one. This is Grounder was the character here.
Another one of my favorite characters. I used to do that show with Long John Baldry, who's
Right.
now passed away, but
Right.
he was one of the great blues legends who discovered Rod Stewart drunk as a teenager in a subway and said, you'd make a great rock and roller. Wow. And Elton John played on his band. He was just like, everybody knew him, and he started out as a matinee crooner in the 50s and 60s.
Right.
And then became this superstar in 1969 with Don't Try to Lay Any Boogie Woogie on the King of Rock and Roll. But he played Dr. Robotnik. And there was him, myself, and this fellow named Phil Hayes, another
Phil, yeah.
very talented voice actor who played Scratch. And the funny thing about this, if you ever watch the show, the funny thing about that show was Grounder and Scratch. Phil played Grounder and I played Scratch, and we're doing kind of an Abbott and Costello kind of thing. And the toy manufacturer or the network had decided they didn't like that sort of format. Could we come up with something brilliant right away? And we'd already recorded 6 shows. And Marcia Goodman, who was the producer and director at that time, she goes, come up with something brilliant or you're fired. No pressure. So we tried to come up with all these different voices, and we're trying to make it work, and we couldn't. And I said, okay, Phil, this is what we got to do. You play my part, and I'll play your part. So he said, yeah, okay. So he goes, Baha! I'm Scratch! And I went, and I'm Grounder. I'm not stupid. I just lost my head for a moment. And they listened to it. They went, oh,
There it is.
brilliant! Brilliant!
Can I say, this is... I've never heard that voice because I never saw the show and I've never heard you that voice before. But suddenly everything comes clear because when people do their Garry Chalk impersonation, Garry, and I was like, what are you talking about? I've never, and there it is. So okay, now I understand.
That's where it comes from. Well, actually, it doesn't come from Grounder.
Oh no?
No, the character was a character in a show called T-Rex. T-Rex, about dinosaurs. And I used to have this kind of character talk like this all the time. And what has happened is people have mimicked the voice so much
and it's devolved
that
into...
it's devolved into... They don't even articulate words. It's just noise. But it's lasted for many, many years.
It has. Oh, man. It just goes on and on and on and on here. What else we got here? Conan the Adventurer, Highlander, Captain N the Game Master, King Hippo.
Oh, that was fun.
Man, it keeps going. MacGyver, the original MacGyver.
Yes.
That's a big deal here. You've been at this forever. You're
Forever.
one of the old guys here. The New Adventures of He-Man, where you played He-Man there. This is the one. For me, as a Canadian guy, this is the big one. The Beachcombers. You did
Yes.
a Beachcombers episode. That's for me. That's a massive thing.
With Bruno Gerussi.
With good old Bruno.
Yes,
Wow.
it was so fun. I never knew this, but Bruno was afraid of water. He didn't like to go on the water.
Wow.
Which is weird because he worked on a show
it-
all about
all
water.
about being on a
so
boat,
he
right.
would, when we go to work in the morning, he'd sit in the middle of the boat and look straight ahead, and the boat would go to where he had to go, and that's where he'd be. And I played this drug dealer. I remember trying to smuggle drugs in a boat, but our boat broke down, and of course, Nick and Bob Clothier, who played Relic, he comes up and saves the day, and the adventure ensues, and we get our comeuppance, and I end up in the water. That's what happens to all the bad guys. If you've ever watched Beachcombers, and it still airs all over the world.
It does.
If you ever watch Beachcombers, you'll notice that most of the bad guys end up in the water.
It's sort of the quintessential Canadian show.
It is.
You know,
it
and
really
that was
is.
how many years ago was that? That was
Well, I think
lifetime
I did an episode in 1984.
What does it say here? This one says 86
or 86.
86.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it was going since way long before that.
Yeah.
You know, several years before that.
They did like 100 episodes, 100 seasons, something crazy.
I know. Well,
they've been on since
it was
the
the
invention of-
longest running show in Canadian television
Yeah,
history.
yeah.
And what's funny about Beachcombers is when you look at it, I mean, it's not, the shows are not complicated. They're not, big things. They're just
Yeah.
this little town, everybody hanging out Molly's Reach and the characters. But it was so endearing to people all over the world. I mean, I think it aired in 100 countries.
Yeah.
And people just loved that show, and they'd write in and they'd say, we want to see this even more.
There's your phone.
Oh,
So with that, we'll take a little break.
okay.
We'll
Is
be
that
right
my
back
phone?
with Garry Chalk. Don't go anywhere.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Frederick Von Fiddlefapper reporting to you live from Grover's Mill, New Jersey, where there seems to be a crash site for a gigantic unidentified flying object. Witnesses saw a huge fireball hurtling across the sky at breakneck speed, which then plowed straight into the middle of the town square. I now have with me Dr. Brouhaha, professor of all things geeky. Tell us, Doctor, is this the first sign of intelligent alien life from another galaxy?
Well, this appears to be a gigantic antenna meant to spread news about video games, cartoons, anime, movies, technology into the atmosphere, and it is called the Big Bald Broadcast.
Tell us, why do you call it that, Doctor?
It says right there in huge letters. What are you, an idiot? Swineford.
Thank you very much, Doctor. I'm absolutely speechless right now, ladies and gentlemen. This big, bald broadcast is having a bizarre effect on the townspeople, including yours truly. I have the sinister urge to tune my web browser over to bigbaldbroadcast.blogspot.com and download the latest geeky news with hosts, voice actor Kyle Hebert and musician Otherworld Steve. I'll also have to check for daily nerdy news links on twitter.com/bbroadcast. Now, if you'll excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go get an iPhone and fondle it.
Settle in. This could be a long one.
One night at GM Place. If you love Pink Floyd and you love the Australian Pink Floyd show, then you'll jizz your pants for the Japanese Sumo Pink Floyd show. Remember when you were young? You shine like the sun. Shine on, you cry. See diamond. Part Pink Floyd, part sumo wrestlers, all spectacle. Hello! Is there anybody in there? Just not if you can hear me. Is there anyone home? All the way from Kyoto is a note-for-note tribute to the world's greatest progressive rock band, as only 4 world-famous sumo wrestlers can perform. Listen to Japan's most respected sumo wrestlers as they chronicle the works of Pink Floyd, from Piper at the Gates of Dawn all the way through the Division Bell. How I wish you were here. We're just 2 rust sores swimming in a fishbowl, year after year. Performed by Japan's premier sumo wrestlers, Akebono, Takamisakari, Ichinoya, and a very special appearance by Yamamoto Toyama as Sid Barrett from The Wall, spiraling into drug-induced madness. Mother, do you think they dropped the bomb? Oh, very bad thing. Because dropping the bomb not very good. Mother, do you think they like this song? It's spectacular. How spectacular? Pink Floyd and 4 sumo wrestlers spectacular. It's Pink Sumo-tacular, Doid. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control. No dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave those kids alone. The Japanese Sumo Pink Floyd show. Shine on, you crazy sumo. Hey! Teacher, leave those kids alone. Ordinary, just another brick in the wall. Tickets on sale now.
You're listening to Voiceprint with Trevor Devall and Guests.
And we're back with the illustrious Garry Chuck. Now, before we go on with our part 2,
Right.
this is the part where I get to ask you about the truth behind all of these stories that all of these other voice actors have told.
Okay.
So, the big one, the absolute big one, the one that gets mentioned all the time.
Yes.
I have to know, Garry Chuck, today, right now, you need to tell me, you need to settle the score, you need to tell me exactly what happened, because I've never heard, I've only ever heard, oh, well, I wasn't there, but a friend of a friend was there, and we heard this, and we read this on the internet. So now, here, the horse's mouth, I need to know. Tell me the story of the Coca-Cola and the belch.
The Coca-Cola. Okay, this Coca-Cola thing, I don't think it's really that big a deal. But anyway, I was actually doing Sonic the Hedgehog.
Okay.
I think it was Sonic.
So this is a few years back then. Obviously.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
The legend has had time to germinate.
to germinate. And I was in the studio with Phil.
Okay.
And
Which studio? Do you recall?
Huh?
Do you recall which studio it was?
Oh, yes, it was at Coco.
It was at Coco. All right.
And Paul was...
Paul Quinn?
Paul Quinn was directing, and his assistant was there, and I can't remember who was engineering at that time, but it was Phil and myself in the studio, and I think Ian Corlett was there too.
Okay, so just the three of you.
Just the three of us.
All right.
And they said, well, we got to do this. Oh, no. No, it wasn't. It was Captain Zed and the Dream Patrol.
Okay.
And it was, I think Phil was there, Ian was there. Who else? Pauline Newston was there. A few other people. But Ian was playing the evil guy, Snort or Snurf or whatever his name is. And he would come into people's dreams and go, this is a song that'll get on your nerves, get on your nerves, get on your nerves. This is a song that'll get on your nerves. This is a song that'll get on your nerves. And he would play, what they do is they'd sample belches and farts on the keyboard, and it would go,
Right.
this is a song that'll get on your nerves. And so they needed a really big belch. So I took a can of Coke and I went, drank it down, and I said, ready? And I said, yes. And I went, like this, and the Coke foam flew out of my mouth onto my script. Now, this is no word of a lie. It flew out of my mouth onto my script, and it must have had some kind of an amniotic kind of sac around it, because I went like this, and it hit this page, and I went, doop, and the whole thing went right back down my throat. And my script was dry. I mean, it had...
As if it never happened.
It never
at all.
happened. It actually touched my script and went right back in like that. And I went, wow. And Phil goes, ow, ow, ow. That's disgusting. And I said, no, I don't know what happened. I tried to, it was an accident. And Paul was lying on the floor. Ian was killing himself. I can't remember who else was in the studio, but and Phil was just gone. You couldn't do anything with Phil. And Paul's assistant was out of her mind. She was roaring so loud. And for the next half an hour after the scene, after the incident,
as it later became known,
the incident, a famous incident, and I think it's on tape somewhere.
All right,
somebody has it on tape.
That's what they claim. That's what they claim.
It is, because it sounds like this. I'll do it. It's exactly what it sounds like, but it is on tape. But for the next half hour, the poor assistant, she'd go, line one, and she'd be falling on the floor, and she just couldn't. And Phil was absolutely gone. He was just like
wrecked the whole session.
And I said, "It's not my fault. You asked for it."
Wow. See, that's one of those stories that when they talk about it now, these other actors, they talk about it with a type of fondness that it's almost like they were there.
Yeah.
You know?
It's a legendary story.
It is. It is probably the story that gets talked about more on this show than any other story. Is that particular story.
Very funny.
Well, thank you for finally setting the record
There
straight.
it is.
There it is, the classic. Tell me, you've been at this forever. You've been an actor for many, many, many years.
Yeah.
Do tell us now, Garry Chalk, how is it that you came to be the man you are today? How did you get in this crazy business?
Well, it all started when the... okay, well, I'll tell you what. When I was in high school, I was never really an artsy fartsy. I was more like a football player and an athlete and
Jock kind of guy.
a jock kind of guy. But I really, really liked these guys who I was in English class with, who were all into theater and the arts and that. I thought that they were just the nicest guys, and they were great fun, and the people involved with it were always good for a laugh. They weren't serious. They were this and that. And so I sort of got involved in the English lit part, the classical part behind it. But I never got involved in the theater. And then one day they were casting a show called The Boyfriend. It was a musical, The Boyfriend. And I always farted around. You know, the class clown who says, oh, yes, of course, we can do that. No worries at all. And there was a guy named Keith Taverner who was well, in high school, he was different. But he was a thespian.
Ah, yeah.
You know, he was an actor.
Yes.
You know, and he was very flamboyant. And he'd say, you know, Mr. Chalk, you would do wonderful at this. You must. I mean, he's in grade 12. I was in grade 11. And
He was the old man.
He was the old man. And he said, no, come on. Come and be part of the show. It'll be fun. And I went, Keith, you're a Canadian. He said, no, my roots are at the old Vic. You know.
My birth may be Canadian, but my blood is British.
My blood is British. And I said, okay, fine. So I signed up for The Boyfriend at Steveston High School in Richmond. And found that I really, really liked it. And had fun and made people laugh. And the key is, as soon as I heard people laughing, I'm going, hey, this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And you can get chicks.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And because the chicks like it, they dig it. So I'm going, okay, I'm doing it for the chicks. And then later on, I you know, after that, I started with doing that. I did a lot of musical theater, like Oliver and Camelot and all that. And I thought I could do this for a career, but there was no money in it, so I didn't see how you could make a living at it. So I just did other jobs. And then the NDP, bless them, got elected into the BC government in 1973 and wiped out the stock market, which is where I was working. And so I got laid off, and I thought, well, I've got to do something. So I went back to university and with the intention of being an English literature teacher or an anthropology teacher, because I loved that. And I went down to the theater department at Langara's Studio 58 and watched a production of Mice and Men in 1975. I guess it was 1975. And I went, wow, this is really good. The acting is good. The production values are great. I want to do this. So I auditioned for the theater next term, you know, for the program. And Anthony Holland, who was running it at that time, he goes, well, yeah, well, you've got some talent. Not much, but some. All right, you're in. And the rest is, as they say, history. Yeah.
So how did you you're from England originally.
Yes.
You were born there. Were you raised there, or when did you move to?
I came here when I was 6 years old.
You're 6.
From Southampton in England, which is it's right close to where the Titanic left the country,
Right.
Right by Portsmouth.
Right.
It's another big port town, Southampton. And when I came to Canada, I made it my mission to lose my accent. Not because, you know, I didn't even know I had an accent. I just thought that's how everybody sounded. But my accent was a Devon accent. So I used to live right down there on the Shirley High Street in Southampton. You know.
You had one of them Hobbit
Yeah,
accents.
me and my father. And
Yeah, with
all
a
that.
cider, drink a jug of cider.
Oh,
sir.
big jug of cider. That's lovely. And people would laugh every time I talked. And the kids would say something. Well, what do you want me to say? And he go, ha, ha. So I would copy them. I would look for reasons to say, did not, did too.
Right.
Because I would never say. I'd never heard of that when I was a kid.
That
it was a
phrase, right?
That phrase, did too? What does that mean? Says, yes, you did. No, did too. So I thought, well, that must be a Canadian thing. And so I said, did too. You wanna? Things like that. And I just copied it and got rid of the accent because it was just the source of grief.
Yeah, I'll bet.
Now, people kind of like it. They like that accent, but I can't do it anymore. I don't want to. But there you go.
That's one of my favorite accents in England.
Devon.
Yeah. Well, you don't mind the sound of that one
That's
at all, sir.
right. I be a man of few words. Yes.
And here's to all our Devon our listeners out there. Thanks for. We do actually have a tremendous amount of listeners in the UK.
Oh, I know.
It's pretty cool. So how did you wind up getting in the voice world?
Well, Anthony Holland, bless him. Was just finishing up, just graduating from theater school, and he goes, "Yeah, guys, a friend of mine is doing a commercial for a nursing home, and I was wondering, you can do that if you could do it for me." And I said, "I don't know." He said, "Yeah, no, he's going to pay you $150." And I went, "Huh? $150? Holy okay, I'm in." So my first voice commercial was for this nursing home for $150, and turned out pretty good. And then I thought, well, I'm going to try that, and I made a voice demo tape. Of course, I had no idea what the parameters were.
Right.
I had no idea what was good and what was not, and so I just made this tape of me emoting like crazy and being so, articulate.
Yeah, yes.
And so precise in my diction. And I went, and I actually listened to it about 7 years ago. I found it in a bin in my at home, and I listened to it. And is it possible to be embarrassed by yourself?
Oh yes, trust
And
me.
I listened to it, and I'm going, oh my God! So I probably burnt it. And the way it worked is I was in Ottawa, and I didn't have a tape, and I would go around and do the circuit, and I ended up doing a lot of narration for the government, which turned out all right. And then a guy named Chuck Rubin called me up and said, "Hey, we'd like you to do a commercial for the Ottawa Citizen." Now, the guy who did the Ottawa Citizen commercials, I think it was Maurice LaMarche.
Oh, really?
I remember. But he used to go, "The Ottawa Citizen, for the latest news, sports, and travel." You can, he had that, this wonderful thing, right? And I'm listening to it, and I'm going, oh, okay. So I went in the studio and did "The Ottawa Citizen, for the latest, and da-da-da." And they went, "Nope, it's not working." They fired me.
Huh.
And I went, "Huh? What? What did I do?" "Nothing you did. It was just you just don't have that
Thing. Yeah.
right?" And so I went to Chuck Rubin and I said, "I'll tell you what. You, if you show me how to do this commercial stuff and make a demo, I'll do your next commercial for free."
Oh wow.
And he said, "Okay." So he did that, made the demo, and taught me about the breathy voice, the corporate voice, all the different. Remember last year when you said it wouldn't happen again, running around at the last minute, all those different voices for different types of commercials, and made a demo. Well, I took that demo out. The demo launched my career, and that was in 1981.
And that was before the animation.
And that was before the animation. And then all of a sudden things just started opening up, and that's how it came about.
Well, that leads us nicely into the next segment, which is the advice segment. If you had some advice for people trying to get into the business, so you talk about. Let's just look at the commercial sector for a second, because that's where you get your start. And you said to the guy, if you can teach me how to do this, I'll do the next one for free. So what would you say would be like a couple of the big things for people to consider when they're trying to break into the voice world? Commercial, animation, whatever.
Well, we'll address animation first, because animation is the show's about animation,
that's
and it's
why
very
people are
important.
here.
I think with animation, you have to realize that You know, how many times have you heard somebody come up to you and say, you know, I do a really good Goofy, or I do a really good Mickey, or I do a perfect
Bart Simpson.
or whatever, and I'm going to go, well, that's good. I'm glad. What other voices can you do? I don't know. Well, you see, there's the thing. You can do that voice for one line, like "Don't have a cow, man," or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But can you recite Shakespeare and make it believable? Can you act? You know, the thing about voicing is voicing is 70% acting and 30% voice. Mm-hmm. I think. Because every one of us has at least 12 different voices in us, right? Mm-hmm. And the thing that you have to do is really hone your acting skills. Because what do you have to do? You have to make sure that because it's being animated, if you do it in a normal conversational tone, when it's animated, it flattens right out because it becomes very flat and boring. So you have to heighten it, not overact, but just heighten those peaks and valleys so that when they do animate it, and you put all that action and body language and stuff in there, when they do animate it, it sounds like a real, believable person that you care about. You know, whether you hate him or like him, you still care about him, right? And so that's what you have to do. So you have to really get your acting chops up because your emotional, intellectual, and physical and geographical intent has to be absolutely clear. If it's muddy, what do I mean by that? Example: two guys. I'll just give you a quick example. Two guys sitting in a cell, right? One guy outside. They hear this banging, a hammering of nails. Maybe they're building a gallows. I don't know. But they're inside the cell and they're sitting on a bench, and they look up at the window, and one guy turns to the other and says, I wonder what they're doing out there. Okay? That's one. They're sitting side by side. The other one, the guy gets up, he walks across the room, he leaps up, grabs the bars, and looks out the window. Okay? So it goes, I wonder what they're doing out there.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I mean?
Exactly.
You have to have the geography and the action has to be there. You're painting a picture, a mental picture for the animator and a mental picture for the you're filling in the gaps, as it were.
Right.
And
giving the animator something to draw.
Yeah. So you always have to have a very strong vision of what the movie looks like in your head, as well as having that voice, and learn about. I don't want to get all boring, but learn about the mechanics of how your voice works. Mm-hmm. You know, if you look at a trombone, or say look at a saxophone, you look at a saxophone. You put a saxophone in the hands of a trained player. He can make it cry, make it laugh, make it growl. It can be soft and sweet. It can be hard and brassy. And what makes it do that? It's the wind. It's how you present it at the reed, and it's how you make those resonators work inside the saxophone. Well, just imagine your body as the tubes and things in a saxophone, and your voice box is the reed. So how you shape the way you speak, if you put it to the front of your mouth, the middle of your mouth, the back of your throat, or down into your chest, you're gonna have a different sound for every resonator that you have, and that's what you got to do. You got to explore the physicality of your voice and explore if you place a voice in the top of your head, it's going to sound a lot different than if you put it down into your chest, right? More supported, more light. So that's where all your different voices come. Add a little bit of an impediment, or a little bit nasal, or a lisp, or a whatever. Now you all of a sudden you multiply those voices to 24. Accents, now it's 36.
That's right.
So you've got all different kinds of voices inside you. The thing is to access them and figure out how they work, and then once you've got that mechanical thing figured out, now you've got to put the heart in, and the heart is the acting.
Yes, the intention.
Is the intention, yeah.
Exactly. Well, that pretty much sums it up.
Sorry, was that too much information?
No, it's all true. It's funny because everybody ultimately says the same thing, but in very different ways. I think that's a very scholarly, succinct sort of way of putting it. I asked the same question to AJ. He was Alessandro Giuliani, who was my last guest, and I said, what advice would you give the newcomers? And his advice was a little different than yours. His advice was don't. Just don't. There's enough of us already.
Yeah, but you want to make your own cartoon at home.
Exactly, man.
Because it's nothing worse. I hate those cartoons where they take our little segments on YouTube and put their own voices in because people think that they're me.
The fan sub. I could do a whole show on the fan sub. Let us see what's in Martin's mailbag.
Martin's mailbag.
Martin from YTV has a list of the various places that you can see, or rather hear, Mr. Garry Chalk on YTV. It's Captain Pounder on Robots. Lots of familiar voices of Garry Chalk. Optimus Primal, of course, on Beasties and Beast Machines. Optimus Prime on Transformers Armada, Energon, and Cybertron. Now the DVDs are available. The New Adventures of He-Man. King Hippo and Captain N, Class of the Titans, Snag and Conan the Adventurer, Marsala and General Shiva in Exo Squad, Metalhead and Pathfinder in G.I. Joe, Lieutenant Stone in G.I. Joe Extreme, Man-at-Arms and Whiplash in He-Man in 2002, Turbo Slash Herr Doctor in Reboot, Femur in Shadow Raiders, and Harry the Werewolf and Bugaboo in Scary Godmother. Martin actually has a question for you. He says, at a Transformers convention, you did an amazing explanation on how you can do different voices depending... Oh, well, you just answered this. It's funny because Martin's question is, can you explain to the fans how this whole placement of the voice and everything works? But you just did that, so there it is, Marty. You got your answer. Quick letter here before we get onto the questions. This one, this is a letter that makes it all worth it, as far as I'm concerned. This is from a guy named Chris. He says, hey, Trevor and Garry. Chris here one more time. Trev, 25 episodes in the making, 25 episodes of you guys giving your sound advice on the goal of doing voiceover work for cartoons. It's been a long way coming, but I've officially auditioned, booked, and recorded my first professional session on a show here in New York.
Yes!
How about that, eh? Everything that you guys said since the first episode was true, right down to the fact that it took me a year once I had my foot in the door to have that connection even allow me in. But it was worth it, and I owe a great deal to you and all of your guests and colleagues for the tips on what to look out for. In the end, know that at least one listener of your podcast has accomplished one of the goals you've created Voiceprint for. I eagerly await the interview with Garry, and as I'll be listening by the time you read this on the show, and I'll eagerly await your return to the show next year even more. If I ever end up going to Vancouver for a convention or otherwise, remind me to buy you a pint. That's from Chris Neosi. Look at that.
Thank you, Chris.
Indeed. Makes it all worth it, man. That's cool. Down there in New York City doing some good work. Now we have a ton of questions.
Oh, my goodness.
Ton of questions. So, here we go. This is from Robin in Australia. 37 degrees down there when Robin wrote this. Hi, Mr. Devall and Garry Chalk. Trevor. Been a fan of the show for a while, and your work also. Although Mula Flaga, I will be looking into Black Lagoon in the future. Garry, I liked your work most notably on Beast Wars as Optimus Primal, and you are a top-notch actor. Questions for Garry. Garry, number one. Working on Freddy vs. Jason, Jason vs. Freddy. How was it to work on that movie, and did you get to meet Robert Englund? What was it like to work with Robert Englund? What's he like?
I gotta tell you, working on Freddy and Jason was an absolute riot. It was so much fun. What was strange is I never actually got to meet Robert Englund on set. I mean, I met Jason, but I never got to meet Freddy. But I did meet Freddy in the bar afterwards. And I'll tell you, Robert Englund, what a sweet sweet guy.
I've heard this.
He's just the nicest guy you'll ever meet, and he's totally unlike that evil Freddy Krueger. He's more like, I don't know if you ever remember watching the early version of V.
Right. Yeah, the original series.
He was the vegetarian lizard.
That's right. I totally forgot he was in that.
Yeah, he was the lizard who was the vegetarian.
Oh, that's funny.
And he's more like that guy than the Freddy Krueger
slasher
guy.
killer guy.
But working on the show, I mean, the problem was because Freddy was in so much, the CGI and the special effects. We a lot of times would be talking to the wall or the flames,
screen.
So the screen. So I never actually got to meet him on set, but offset quite a few times.
Great guy.
Nice guy.
Another question from Robin. Were you surprised Optimus Primal died in the end of Season 1? Oh, I guess that was a spoiler for those of you who hadn't seen it. When I watched it all those years back, it sure surprised me. Were you surprised that Optimus Primal died in Season 1?
Yes, but I think they brought me back only because I threatened to destroy them. No, I didn't destroy them. No, they said, yeah, you died, but you're coming back. And I said,
"What you whining? You're coming back.
You're coming back. It's a spark. We just get the spark. The spark hides out in space. We find the spark and we put it back in. You come back to life. Only a little different, but you come back to life. It's a toy thing.
It is a toy thing." This one's from Robert. This is an interesting question. My question for Garry deals with character entitlement. Regarding Optimus in his many iterations, do you feel more entitled to the character than, say, Peter Cullen, who was the original voice actor? The reason I ask this is that often, many times a role is made famous by a particular actor. For example, the genie from Aladdin, played by Robin Williams. Aside from the first and third films, Robin Williams has done less work for the character than another well-known voice actor in Dan Homer Simpson. Never know how to say Dan's last name. Anyway, so ultimately, he says, my question is this. When a character role is divided amongst multiple actors, what has more credence? The popularity of the original actor or the actor who sticks it out in the trenches and does all the grunt or lesser work? In the case of Garry, who, to his credit, has done far more work for the character of Optimus than Peter Cullen, does a sense of entitlement develop after a while? Was Garry considered... Oh, and another question is, were you considered for the Transformers movie? But first things first, the sense of entitlement. What's your response to that? Is there a sense of ownership or entitlement to the character after playing it in so many different versions?
That's a difficult one because I can say that Primal was entirely mine. Primal was entirely mine in that he was a new iteration of Optimus and sounded nothing like the original Optimus Prime, who was a truck.
Right.
I'm a gorilla.
Right.
It's a different thing. I was big buck. So that was okay. As far as the other shows, there's no way that I can compare to Peter Cullen, who was great and who's been a voice legend in his own right for a lot longer than I have. But as far as entitlement, I don't think that it's not mine. The creators of Transformers, who created the characters in the first place, they have the entitlement. I'm just bringing them to life. And I have no problem with that. I know some people get their noses bent out of shape about, this is my character, this is my voice, I did this and that. And I've had people hack on me about doing Optimus Prime, and I'll never hold a candle to Peter Cullen, or I'll never do this. And I'm going, so what? If Peter wants to come up here and do it for 12 years or 10 years or whatever it is, by all means, come on up,
Yeah.
But he didn't want to. I don't know if he didn't want to, or they didn't ever approach him with doing all the anime stuff, because it's just not profitable for him.
Right.
I don't think. I don't know, but I just enjoyed doing it. To me, characters are characters. I'm me. That's the only thing I'm entitled to is me.
Excellent answer. An excellent answer. This one's from Vic. Hey, Trevor and Garry, it's Vic again, but this time not with a weird question, but rather a weird request. Could Garry give a big burp into the mic? I heard a soda helps, but if not, could you both just sit back for a minute and enjoy the sound of your own voices and bask in the greatness and glory of each other's presence? So, there it is. Didn't quite come out back again, but you know.
I didn't want to get that great big one because I'm afraid that if I did get the Coke,
it would be bad. I'm sitting right across from
the
him.
incident would happen again, and Trevor would get drenched in this amniotic sack of Coca-Cola. I'm shuddering thinking of it.
Yes.
So now we can bask in how wonderful our voices sound. I am in love with the sound of my own voice.
I lull myself to sleep with recordings of myself.
Of me. I like to wake up in a sea of me. Sometimes I only eat me foods.
That's a bit grim.
Ooh, pastrami, salami.
This one's from Robert in the UK. Hi, Trevor, long-time listener, second-time writer. My question is for Garry. Now, being that I'm a fan of yourself and Masters of the Universe, I know you voiced Man-at-Arms in the latest incarnation, and you did a fantastic job. Recently, however, I found out that it was you who also voiced He-Man in the previous version, too. I was wondering, what was it like working on two versions of the same show, and if you have any funny stories of working on either?
Yes, He-Man was very strange because I think it was my second cartoon or third cartoon. I can't remember. Mm-hmm. I think it was a second or third cartoon, and I had no idea about it. But there was someone else was. I was the also ran on that, and they had to come up with a version, and I did it, and they quite liked it, and yeah, it was fun. The funny stories I have about it are Don Brown. Don Brown was an actor who played Geppel, one of the characters in the first generation. And Don was kind of new to the cartoon game, but, you know, he was a very wonderful, warm, loving guy, and he would say, "Oh, sorry, Sue." So we used to call these things Don Brownisms. Like he would say, he would read sometimes stage directions. He'd go, "Eat mutant walla!" And he went, "Oh, sorry, Sue. That's a stage direction." Oh, that's funny. I read the stage directions. Sorry, Sue. So we used to tease the hell out of him in that. But he was the most wonderful character.
Yeah.
In the new series, I played Man-at-Arms, and I found it odd that the guy who played He-Man has one of the biggest Barbie collections in the world. Cam Clark is on Collector Magazine.
Wow.
He had his picture on Collector Magazine for Barbie.
Ooh.
And I went, you know, that's kind of gay. And he goes, no, I'm telling you. You know, it all started way back because his mother was one of the King sisters.
One of the King sisters?
The King sisters. They were, you know, like Lawrence Welk. They used to sing on Lawrence Welk. They were a trio of girls. I was dancing with my darling to the Tennessee waltz.
Okay.
You know, very sweet with the pastel-colored dresses. But they were very, very popular in the 60s and 50s. And Cam's mom was one of the King sisters. And Mattel made a doll in honor of a Barbie, a King Sisters Barbie. And he got a hold of this, and he went, wow, so I'll keep that. And then he'd start seeing, and, well, first it started out with just a little bit of cheddar, right? So I was eating a bit of cheddar, and now we go to these clubs, and now I've graduated up to Limburger. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think, you know, my wife doesn't know. Please don't say anything. And that's what happened, is he started collecting Barbies, and now he's got this huge Barbie collection, and I'm going, don't advertise that.
Yeah, the voice of He-Man.
The voice of He-Man should be having G.I. Joe dolls.
That's right.
But,
and tanks and guns.
Tanks and guns, which we love.
This one's from Jonathan. At last we have the heavily mentioned and illustrious Garry Chalk in person. I have 2 questions. 1, how would you feel if you got to talk to Peter Cullen, and what would be your first question for him?
Do you mind if I... Well, I've actually had this happen.
Uh-huh.
I met Peter Cullen at a con in Disneyland, and they had him and myself as the old He-Man or the old Optimus and the new Optimus. And I said, hello, Peter. And he goes, hello. And I says, I'm playing your character now. And he goes, yes. And I says, it's kind of fun. And he goes, yeah. And I said, so how do you feel about that? I mean, I don't care. It's yours now. And I went, okay.
So he wasn't exactly married to the idea.
Well, he was very nice. You know, he's a really incredible singer.
Oh, yeah?
A very great jazz stylist singer. The things that come out. But I just asked him, you know, what was it like to, you know, sort of put this character together, and he says, you know, I mean, how do you answer the question?
True professional. He had no opinion.
So there I am. I'm standing there, and I'm looking kind of like a dork. But we actually had a great time. We talked about Sue and the shows that she's directed, and talked about the different shows that he's been in and who his idols were and whatnot, and how he enjoyed the conventions. And he sort of enjoyed them, but, you know, he wasn't like... You know,
he's just a guy.
He's just a guy.
The other question: have you seen the Michael Bay films, the Transformer movies?
Yes.
So Jonathan wants to know: other than Optimus or Megatron, what Transformer would you have loved to voice in the movie?
Bumblebee.
Bumblebee. I got to tell you, I haven't seen the second one. I just saw the first one. Honestly, I can't tell the characters apart in terms of the voice. I can't.
They're all affected.
Yeah, they're all the same to me. So it's all just like, yeah, and then an explosion. I can't hear anything over the explosions. You know, it's boom, boom, pow, bang. The whole movie's just a giant explosion.
Well, the thing about that, and I got to tell you about that, because I actually wrote into Michael Bay about, you know, I've been doing this for a while.
Right.
You think I could have an audition?
Right.
And or not Michael Bay, it was Don something or other, and he said he got the reply I got, what is this guy for real? Who is this guy? What the hell is this?
Nice.
No. And well, we'll see. How many people want that guy? How many want that guy? Well, most people wanted the original guy.
Yeah.
For romantic reasons, they wanted the original guy.
Yeah.
But there were some guys who wrote letters on there who were just so nasty to me, really evil. And I went, it's a cartoon. It's a voice. What did I do? Eat your children?
Yes, somehow
They just rubbed the. I think it was the guy who did Robots in Disguise. But we'll keep that to ourselves. No, this guy was just ripped into me, and I said, take it easy, buddy. I wrote, take it easy, buddy. I mean, you know, we're just doing a job here.
No
but most people were quite positive about it. But, I sort of like the movie. But if you're not a Transformers fan, you don't know what the heck is going on.
I had no idea. I mean, I've been in the series, too.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell's going on in the movies.
The transformations, to me, were too fast.
Yeah.
And as you say, all the voices sound exactly the same.
Yeah.
What are we going to do, Optimus?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think and they...
Oh, my bad. You know. And number 2 was just,
even more.
Roller coaster.
More the same. This one is from Candace. My name is Candace, and I'm from Pennsylvania, or Taxylvania, as I call it. This is my first time ready to voice print, but I have been listening for some time now. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity that you give to friends and fans to ask questions to these great voice actors. Here are my questions for the very talented and charming Garry Chalk. Oh, this is good. These are questions about your hidden talents, Garry. How long have you been playing the guitar and the piano?
I've been playing the piano for about 12 years, and I've been playing the guitar for about 42 years.
42 years. Who or what inspired you to learn how to play them?
My friend Eddie Westfall. who I'm still friends with, been friends with for 40 years. Eddie, to me, was like the most tremendous guitar player, very talented musician. I said, I want to do that. And at that time, I had no idea there was such a thing as a right-handed or left-handed guitar. I just thought a guitar was a guitar.
Right.
So I picked it up and I started plunking on it, and I went, oh, well, this fits, so this must be right. So the bass strings in the bottom and the high strings on top.
Because you play, for those of you who don't play guitar, Garry plays what I would call backwards.
I do. I play upside down.
Upside down. Now, that's just because the first guitar you picked up happened to be...
A right-handed guitar, and I'm left-handed.
Wow.
Yeah, so I didn't know there was such a thing. So
Wow.
that's how I learned.
Wow.
And the cruel bastards who were my housemates at that time when I was a kid, they didn't educate me otherwise, because they didn't want me stealing their licks.
Ah.
You know, there was, licks were like gold. When you're a teenager, when you're like 14, 15, when you learn a lick, you want to keep it to yourself.
It's mine.
Man.
It's my
It's
creative
mine.
genius.
You're playing my lick. And I actually got in a fight with one of my guys, Wayne Cosgrove. I'm naming you Wayne. Yeah, man. I'm naming you Wayne Cosgrove. Got in a fight over the song that we were learning was "It Is the Evening of the Day." As tears go by, it is the evening of the day. Rolling Stones. I sit and watch the children play.
Yeah.
As tears go by.
Yeah.
That's the song. I got in a fight with him over the lick. I'm like, come on, man, it's music. No, it's mine.
Wow.
But thank you for that question, Candace. And just because I think I know who this is from Pennsylvania.
Oh.
Candace, my darling, I got your package in the mail today, and it's fabulous. I haven't opened it yet. But did you get mine? We trade.
Oh.
I'm going to let the secret out now for all you fans out there. Candace is a very talented artist. She's a painter and a drawer and a photographer, and she's very, very talented. If you go to Facebook or wherever it is, or the website of fan art, and have a look at some of her paintings and some of her drawings, she's a tremendous artist. There you go, kiddo.
Wow, what a plug. You heard it first right here on
You heard it
Voiceprint.
first, right here. And our next question.
Yes, if there's another instrument that you would like to learn, what would it be?
Another instrument I'd like to learn, that sounds funny, accordion.
Oh, there's nothing funny about the accordion, man.
I love the accordion.
I was an award-winning accordion player when I was a kid.
No way!
Yes, I was.
I love the accordion,
Yes.
man.
Yes, it's a great... And the thing is, when I was a kid in the 70s, playing the accordion, that was a geek thing to do, because it was like, oh, what are you playing, poker? What are you, Lawrence Welk or something? But now it's super hip and Celtic, and everybody who's cool plays the accordion.
Oh.
Just totally come around. Of course, I haven't played it in years. I've forgotten how to play.
But you'll pick it up really easy. I was down in Louisiana, in Lafayette, watching these guys playing that Zydeco, and watched the guy with the little accordion. Just rocked out. I mean, that's what I want to learn.
This one's from Caitlin. She says, "This is so exciting for me because I've been a fan of you, Garry, since I was 5, and when all the other girls would watch girly shows, I watched Beast Wars. My question for the both of you is, I know that acting is just a job and the characters you play are not something that you think about too much, but was there ever a scene or a moment that a character you played had to go through that you gained something valuable from, other than the paycheck?"
Other than the paycheck.
She's obviously listened to the show a lot if she put that little disclaimer in there.
Okay, well, I will give you one that I thought was quite poignant for me, and it was about compassion and understanding, and it was with Cheetor. And Cheetor was trying to understand, he was hurt, and he was trying to understand, why do we keep on fighting? And I'm having this conversation about him, and about the nature of conflict and everything like that. And it was a very poignant moment for me. And if you can recall the episode, I can't, but it's where we were talking about why life is the way it is, and it was a very quiet one-on-one scene with Cheetor and myself. And if you see it, I think it's in Series 3, but it was a great scene.
Cool. I can't think of anything. I don't learn anything. I can't be taught. I don't learn anything.
You can't be taught?
I can't be taught, no. So I learned that cartoons are great. I don't know. I can't.
That's not true.
They're not great?
You always learn something.
Well, this isn't about me. This is about you,
No,
Chuck.
it's about you, Trevor. It's about teamwork.
Moving
it's about
right
loyalty.
along.
It's about honor.
Oh, Caitlin, you've created a monster. This one's from Tori. Oh, here's an interesting one for you. If you were somehow mind-swapped with Scott McNeil, what would you do as him?
Get a haircut.
Change my shirt.
Change my shirt. Get a haircut. Lose the jewelry. That's about all.
That's about all. This one's from Coral. Dear Trevor, I can't believe you actually got Garry onto your show. My question's for both of you. What kind of character do you prefer to play, the good guy or the bad guy? Oh, by the way, she says, Garry, great job on playing bad rap and extreme dinosaurs. This is Coral from South Africa. So, the good guy or the bad guy?
Here's the thing. I like playing good guys because good guys are a challenge. Because to make good guys interesting is always a difficult job because they have the most boring lines.
Yep.
They always have to play the straight and narrow and go raw team and keep everybody together and be good. Mm-hmm. The bad guys get to do all those. I will destroy you. So they get all the best lines and they emote their faces off all over the screen. So in one way, I like playing the heroes because it's a challenge to make a boring character interesting,
right?
Enough to watch.
Right.
And I like the villains because it's not a challenge. It's you can just eat the scenery and have a great time and go all the time, and people just go,
and
yeah!
They buy it. That's exactly what you're supposed to do. That's my response precisely. This one's from Desiree. Hi, Garry. It's a pleasure to speak to you. I was a big Sonic the Hedgehog fan when I was little, and Grounder was my favorite character. I also highly enjoyed your voice work on Bucky O'Hare. Anyway, to cut to the point, my questions are: is there a specific animated character, past or present, you would have loved or would still love, if the show returned, the opportunity to play? If there was there a specific animated character that you would love to play again?
Okay, well, I'll tell you, as far as characters go, you mentioned Bucky O'Hare. Mm-hmm. Loved Bucky O'Hare. Loved the character of Dogstar. Dogstar, who was talking about giant Rigelian cheese bombs, and I took those bombers out. I tell you, those were the days, boy. Bucky, my lad, we had all kinds of battles. It was so much fun. It's a little quieter now. But if there was one character I'd love to play again, that was one of them. I love that show. And when you talk about Grounder was so... he was such a doofus, but he was so cute. And they'd be... I remember one show where we were doing acting, or I was acting disguised as a girl to trap Sonic. And Dr. Robotnik had said, you've got to catch him. Do you know that I actually played Dr. Robotnik in the second generation of Sonic the Hedgehog? I hate that hedgehog. But Sonic would go, oh, I am a damsel in distress. I need your, please help. And he goes, it's not working. Scratch would go, it's not working. And I said, shut up. I can do it better. Just a minute. Oh, please help me. And we'd make this stuff up as we were going. And he was another delightful character. I think more than doing the character, it was so much fun to spend time in the studio with Phil and Long John Baldry. Oh God!
Well, I've said before, one of the biggest perks of this job is the people we get a chance to work with. Every day. It's awesome. Desiree also wants to know, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Right here in Vancouver, British Columbia.
Took the words out of my mouth. This one's from Christina. Question number 1 for the both of us. Since the two of you have voiced in CG cartoons and movies, have you ever seen the animation being done before being aired or released? I did a movie called Ark with James Woods, which I think I've mentioned on the show before, and it was
I've seen, which was actually pretty kind of cool.
They did a really good job.
It was a very good job.
And I'd never done a CG thing before, but I saw bits of it when we had to go in for pickups. So it was about a year after, 6 months maybe, 6 months after we'd recorded it, went in for pickups, saw sort of the rough cut of it, and even the rough cut was super cool.
Yeah.
But then when they did the final version, I was like, oh wow, that's very neat.
It was pretty wild, that movie Ark. I really actually liked it. I saw it on Showtime or HBO or one of those, and I'm going, oh, what the hell is this? And I'm watching it, and I'm going, God, I know those voices. Who's that?
Yeah,
that sounds like Trevor, and that sounds like
Kirby and
Kirby and what's her face, the girl,
Kiara. Yep.
And she was like the lead girl.
She was the main
girl, and I'm listening and I'm going, oh my God, because it was a very cool cartoon.
Yeah, it was neat. Very
cool.
dark. Very, very dark.
Yes. Well, mine I've seen them in animatic. The way they've done the shows, not in CGI. I've seen the CGI, the precursors of CGI, and that was kind of interesting how they plot the lines, because we went on a tour through Mainframe.
Right.
And watch how each progression of animation is done.
Step,
and there's little gnomes with creatures all over their computer screens, and they look up and they go, hello.
Sunlight.
Hello.
Please, we haven't seen sunlight in so long.
I'm doing the hands.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm doing the hands.
It's like a factor. That's all they do all day.
And my entire job is to just animate how your hands work all day long.
Oh, thank God for Clearasil and
to counter all this soda pop I drink.
The best one was when they were doing the models for Dot. Dot on Reboot, and the guy had like 200 or 300 pictures from Playboy and Victoria's Secret and all this, looking for the perfect body to be Dot.
Inspiration.
Yes.
The second question from Christina. Since you played Optimus Primal and Optimus Prime, I have to ask, if two of them were in a fight, who would win? With each other, presumably.
I think between Optimus Prime and Primal, I think Prime would win because Prime's a lot bigger. And he's a truck. I'm a gorilla. But, I have more advanced weaponry.
Right.
But
in the battle between, machine and animal, really.
It might be a fair fight because, machines fight with predictable routines. Animals use the random factor.
This is true.
So it could happen that you could lose, or you could win.
A very creative and non-committal answer. I like it.
It's non-committal, but I'd kick his ass.
This one's from Michael in TO. For Garry, what was your reaction when you were told that you got the role from Optimus Prime? Well, we've already talked about that. It was just sort of, oh, okay, yeah, sure. Okay.
No, good. Okay, cool.
Being one of the most iconic characters in animation history. Once you did understand that it was an iconic character, did you feel any sense of, wow, this is a lot to live up to? Anything like that? Was it at all intimidating?
Intimidating? I don't think so.
That's my word, not his.
But I went to, I know that in the third season of Beast Wars, it started to take this weird artsy-fartsy kind of new age philosophy kind of take on it. It went away from the heart of the Transformers, and I complained long and loud. I said, "What the heck is this?" You guys are making us into a bunch of whiners. We're not whiners. We're Transformers. Transformers are heroes. Transformers fight our battles. We don't sit and contemplate our navels. We're sorry. We don't do that. We have other people who do that.
This one is from Aaron. Hey, Trevor and Garry. My name is Aaron, and I fit under the category of long-time listener, first-time writer. My question is for Garry. In shows like Captain N and Sonic the Hedgehog, you got to work with the late, great Long John Baldry. What was it like for you and the other voice actors who were in those shows? Well, we've talked a little bit about this already, but that must have... Because you're a big music guy, and he was a legend, but... I mean, what was that like to work with him?
Long John Baldry, I must tell you, was a sweet, gentle man. He was about 6'7".
Wow. Hence the name.
6'7", 6'5". A tremendous blues musician. A great guy. Terrified of driving in cars over 50 kilometers an hour. But very supportive and very, he was like that, he was like that grandpa that everybody else had. That guy who was always good for a laugh, and he'd say, "Hello, Mr. Cherry Coke. How are you, Mr. Choke? Or how are you, Garance," he would call. He called me, he had 4 names, Cherry Gawk, Garance, Mr. Choke, and Chokey. But he was very fun because he was kind of like an absent-minded professor, He said, "What? No, I've lost my place. Where am I? Oh, yes, well, what? Grounder, scratch, yes. Oh, yes, that's it, isn't it? Yes. All right. Oh dear, must go." But, he was delightful to work with. He was really fun, but it was a bit of a challenge. I used to drive him downtown sometimes after sessions. And we'd go across the bridge, and as soon as I went 1 kilometer over 50 kilometers an hour, he'd go, "Oh, dear. Oh. What's wrong?" "Speed, dear boy, speed."
Yeesh. Was he in an accident or something? Is that what...
I have no idea. I think he might have had an accident in the UK, but he never really... I don't think he ever learned how to drive.
Got the story there. This one's from Lisa in sunny Brisbane, Australia. She says, "We just got Gundam 00 here last month, and it's cool to hear all you guys again." She wants to know who gave Brad Swale the lead in Gundam 00. I thought he was told no more Gundam shows since he's in them. That's an excellent question. He was convinced. I think he was probably the most surprised out of anybody that he was in the show, because he was convinced he would never do another Gundam show. But there he is. To Garry and Trevor, if you could cast the new voices for Michael Bay's Transformers, who would you pick to play Optimus, Megatron, Bumblebee, Ironhide, and any others that you can think of? I don't know if I can answer that because, like I said, I don't really follow. I didn't follow the movies. I couldn't follow the movies. I didn't know what was going on.
You didn't know what was going on?
I'd probably cast me in a bunch of them.
Yes, well, I would cast me, of course.
I think so.
Because,
Yeah, definitely.
I am Scarlett O'Hara. I mean, wrong play. But no. But I would cast me. I would cast David Kaye as Megatron.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I thought he was a tremendous Megatron.
Yeah, he's tremendous at everything he does.
Yeah, he's very good at what he does. And I would cast Scott as Jetfire. I think Jetfire was the Australian guy.
I think so.
Yeah, because he's got a pretty good Australian accent.
Well, he was that's big point of contention. He's always upset when anybody else gets the Australian characters.
Yeah. Well, something, Scott. You're not the only one who can do that accent.
That's right. Sorry.
I'll tell you what.
Sorry, Bruce.
No worries, matey.
There's a bunch of us can pull it off.
I would cast who? I would cast Michael Dobson as one of those characters, for sure.
Yeah.
I would cast the Dobson boys, period.
Yes.
Because I think as a group, they're a very talented group of guys.
Yeah.
Trev, I don't know what I'd cast you as. Dr. Jones.
Okay.
Dr. Jones would be very cool. That's a cool character. Who else would I put in there? The girl... Megan Fox, kind of hot.
A little bit.
I think I'd leave her there, but if we couldn't have her, little Kiara.
Yeah, she would do it.
Oh yeah,
She would do it.
she'd be kind of hot. Kind of hot.
And before we venture too far down...
Oh yeah, we don't want to go down that perverted lane.
This one's from Bob. It's Bob again, writing in with a question for Mr. Garry. Chuck. Garry, I loved your work as King Hippo on Captain N and Grounder on Sonic, and you did a great job with both, and they always kept me laughing. He wants to know... did you ever voice the character of Genma Seotome on Ranma 1/2? Do you recall that? Because apparently it's listed somewhere, but nobody... What does he say here? After watching a few dozen episode credits from each of the 7 seasons of the series, as well as asking fellow Ranma fanatics, nobody can seem to figure out which episodes you did the voice in, even though it apparently lists you on several sites of the internet.
I have no idea, because I think it was a one-off episode where I played... it was some king or something. I can't remember. But I have no idea.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Well, that's common. We often can't remember anything about it.
Well,
It's funny, actually, Garry, because you, I think, out of anybody that's ever been on this show, remembers more details about their roles in shows than anybody else. Because everybody comes on and they'll say, "Hey, so do you remember doing that character?" And they'll look at me blankly and just kind of make something up.
Well, I think I've done about 54 series. And about 2,000 cartoons.
Wow.
Not to mention the movies and stuff. But I think that I remember them all, or most of them. Some of them I absolutely forgot that I was in. And one of them, I think, was Clash of the Titans. I saw my credits for Clash of the Titans. I went, I don't remember. Then I remembered, Christ, I was Hercules in that. Yeah. No, that was fun. I was the teacher. But I totally blanked in my mind that I did that show. But most of them, I absolutely remember every single one, right to the very first one, Alien, or no, the Hiawatha. But right after that, I did one called Alien Starlost or something, which is a science fiction show, and it was locally produced in Ottawa. It was very bizarre. But still, no, I remember them because, well, I put a lot of stuff in them.
Put a little heart and soul in it. It's good. I'm glad you remember because it makes my job easier.
Makes your job
I don't
easy.
have to say anything.
Yeah.
You do everything. The last question here. This is from Danny in Liverpool, England.
Yeah.
Danny wants to know, he says he's a big fan from across the pond, with a question. Have you both, or either, ever prepared a romantic meal for your significant other? And if so, has there ever been a moment when wacky consequences ensued after preparing said romantic meal?
Well, no. No, I mean, I'm seriously, I'm not being flip and everything, but I cook a lot at home. I'm actually a pretty good cook, and I've never seen anything really disastrous happen at our romantic meals, except for maybe the dog eating the roast. That's happened once.
Well, that's something.
Other than that, no. I know we had a standing joke is that at home is that I would cook the meals because my wife didn't like to cook, and we had a sort of a standing joke that every time she attempted to cook something, the smoke alarm would go off in the kitchen, and I'd say, "Stop cooking!" And it was like, you know how you make craft dinner. How many people out there eat craft dinner? You get a pot, you put water, you throw the noodles, then you wait till it's cooked, you put in the macaroni, a little butter, a little pepper, mix it up, and yum yum, it's done. Okay? That's one pot. I go in the kitchen and watch Madame. There's a pot and another pot, and there's sort of orange powder all over the counter, and half-cooked pasta in the sink and in the little wells in the stove, and I'm going, "What are you doing?" She says, "I'm making macaroni." And I said, "Thank God you're not doing a banquet." I mean, so Anytime those kind of meals come along, I cook them. But for those of you who are in the UK, I'm just throwing a little plug here. I will be at the WolfCon on January 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in London for the sci-fi convention for the Stargate fans and whatnot. So if you ever want to come down and say hello, I'll be there. August 13th, 14th, 15th, I'll be in Birmingham. For the big animation the animation convention. It's a Transformers convention out there in Birmingham. So if you'd like to come and see, I'll be out there this August 13, 14, and 15.
Well, there you go. Now you know where to go and find Mr. Garry Chalk to get his autograph, see him in person, and tell him how much you love and adore his work. That's it for us. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a long time coming, and I'm glad you found time with a busy schedule to come out and join us here in the studio, so to speak.
And it's a lovely studio. I mean, if you can picture in your mind's eye this beautiful place in subtle tones of butternut squash.
Yes, rather. It's very autumnal in here.
It's very autumnal. It's very autumnal colors. It's quite lovely, and it's a beautiful sunny day outside too.
Oh, it is. So let's get out there and enjoy it because we have precious few of them here in the wintertime in Vancouver. Thank you so much. That wraps up our 25th episode. As I said, we will be taking a little hiatus for a few months, but keep checking the skies, so to speak. Keep checking the site, and I'll have a very special episode or something for you when we come back in the springtime. Until then, my dear friends, take care of yourselves. Have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and we shall see you on the flip side.